Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy claims that he's willing to resign if it meant that Ukraine would be accepted into NATO.
If it's about peace in Ukraine and you really want me to leave my position, I am ready to do that. Secondly, I can exchange it for NATO if there is such an opportunity. I'll do it immediately without a long conversation about it. I'm focused on Ukraine's security today and not in 20 years. I don't plan to be in power for decades.
Now, this comes after Donald Trump called Zelenskyy a dictator for cancelling elections and accused Ukraine of starting the war. Now, Trump says that the US has given billions of dollars to Ukraine to defend itself against Russia, and essentially, America needs that money back and should have the rights to hundreds of billions of dollars worth of critical and rare earth minerals. Zelenskyy insists that the $100 billion in aid from the US was a grant, not a loan. But Donald Trump, speaking at the White House today, told reporters that a deal is close with Ukraine.
It looks like we're getting very close. The deal's being worked on, and we're, I think, getting very close to getting an agreement where we get our money back over a period of time. But it also gives us something where I think it's very beneficial to their economy, to them as a country. But, you know, we're in for $350 billion. How we got there, I don't know, but that's a lot of money, a lot of money.
Let's bring in GB News host Darren Grimes. Darren, great to see you again. What's going to happen here? Are we really going to see Zelenskyy step down as he claims that he might? And are we going to see Ukraine agree to this deal with the US?
Look, I think this is a form of power play. I think this is Zelenskyy making clear he's not a dictator. You know, that was the charge that President Trump put to him. Now, look, I think there will ultimately be a deal because there has to be. Ukraine has no option here. And I think it's only fair and right for American taxpayers to try and be able to scrape back some of the money that they've spent ensuring, let's be absolutely frank, that Ukraine right now doesn't have a Russian flag planted in the middle of it. So, look, I understand all of that, but I do agree even with Sir Keir Starmer. Now, I put it like this. I don't say this very often, but they're all singing from the same hymn sheet here. And these globalists have all said that the Ukrainian position is sacrosanct, right? And that President Trump is some kind of orange dictator himself. That was the narrative, certainly from our own very own Sir Keir Starmer's Labour Party in this country. So this is major, this is significant, but let's not kid ourselves, right? Ultimately, Putin, if we don't have ironclad security guarantees, well, this entire thing is about as useless as a chocolate teapot, because we have to ensure that they don't come back once Putin's munitions are no longer as low as they are, and that his economy isn't on life support, which I'm sure he'll be able to turn around in a few years without international sanctions. So that's where actually the European plan, I think, is right and necessary. But it has taken President Trump in that peace through strength approach to actually broker such a deal. I am confident, as he is, that a deal will be struck, but we've got to ensure that the European response isn't one to flim-flam about on projects like net zero, which are immiserating Europe and its economies, and instead focus on defence and security.
It's interesting, Ukraine will not be able to join NATO. Donald Trump has made that crystal clear, and there are concerns about what security Ukraine will have to avoid a conflict in the future. And what we're witnessing at the moment is just a complete shift in approach to the war. The US did not vote in support of UN resolution condemning Russia's war against Ukraine. I suppose for Donald Trump, he's dealing with Putin. He's trying to get a peace deal here. Is this just part of the strategy?
Oh, absolutely. You know, the art of the deal, you know, the man is textbook. This isn't a politician we're talking about. This is a man who made his billions in real estate. You know, this is a man who shakes and signs on the dotted line in a really hard line way. But I think the question European electorates, and actually even in Australia as well, have to ask themselves is why have we got millions who'd rather, glue themselves to the road in protest against fossil fuels, which have, dragged us out of children dying in childbirth, over actually being willing to fight for their own freedoms. That's what I think whenever I hear someone say that Europe would go out to fight for Ukraine. Actually, I'm not sure many Europeans would fight for Europe, never mind a Ukrainian economy that's pretty alien to them. So there are wider questions for the Western world itself, and the Trump moment is an unfrozen moment to try and rebalance those priorities, because right now I think they're nuttier than a fruitcake.
Well, Donald Trump has told reporters that he thinks the war in Ukraine could end within weeks. That would be extraordinary. We know Zelenskyy says that he hopes that it will end at some point this year. But I want to talk to you about what is going on in the UK, because it appears that the UK government does not care about privacy or your privacy. Earlier this month, the government requested backdoor access to user data that even Apple doesn't have access to. Now, Apple refused, but has taken the unprecedented step of removing its highest level data security tool from customers. That's advanced data protection. So essentially, Britons can no longer encrypt data because the government wants to access it. Security experts are absolutely blasting this for weakening online security and privacy. What are the implications of this, Darren?
The implications are absolutely huge. London is considered a tech hub. It's certainly the tech hub of Europe, if not major parts of the world too. And that reputation lies in tatters now, because what we have done is said that there is no innovation that you can bring in Britain if actually that innovation is a privacy first innovation. This iPhone that I've got here is about as much use as a chocolate teapot when it comes to defending me from the likes of Chinese outliers, were they wanting to access my information. It's a bit like, I would describe it as leaving a key under a doormat and only expecting your friends and family to know that it's there, and hoping and praying that someone with nefarious interests doesn't get there first and scout out about and see if they can case the joint. That's effectively what we've done to the technology of millions of users of smartphones in the United Kingdom. And it opens up wider implications for Apple's response, not just Apple, but primarily Apple's response in wider parts of the world. Will Russia be asking for this backdoor? Will China be asking for this backdoor? Chinese authoritarians would absolutely love to get their mitts into the encrypted data of Australians, for example. You've had plenty of spy scares in your country. We've known our dilly-dalliance with Russians trying to hack things. It is just such an enforced error. And they say to me, Darren, you must be on the side of paedophiles for supporting this. I say no. If you are concerned about paedophiles talking to young children online, what we need is robust parenting. What we need are safeguards of parents actually monitoring what their child is doing online. And actually, they shouldn't have a smartphone in the first place. But if they do, monitoring what your child is doing, there are plenty of tools in which you can do that. Regardless, you should not be opening up a backdoor that's vulnerable to attack from actors who do not wish us well. It is naive and extreme.